This is Chris Dabney, and you are tuned into SUAVV Sessions.
Before we came on, I was talking about, or we were speaking about like how long it's been since you've been in the magazine, and
Oh my
it's
goodness.
it's been a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, but in that time, like just your growth and expansion has been amazing. But before we get into that, just so the people kind of figure out how did you they don't know the work that you really do and like how in depth your involvement is. So how did you get into the backside of entertainment, or did you start in front of the camera? Like
I
how did that work out?
yeah, I started out originally in front. And as we go back to Philadelphia days, right? So
Right.
for me, I had started out as a trained actor, and so I was in front of the camera. And I was lucky enough to team up with talent, Donald Welch, Fred Thomas Jr. These were filmmakers and theater directors early
Hmm.
on in my career. So as I was performing, I was also paying attention and I was learning
Yeah.
silently the back end, where the meat and potatoes is as far as the work, right, of these
Right.
productions. So over time, it was just a natural procreation for me, seamless migration. I love to this day, I always love performing. I always have a special place in my heart. But for
Hmm.
me, my thing's always been behind the camera.
Yeah.
The brains of the operation, and so I learned over the years how slowly, to migrate into that producing role. But it paid a lot of dues. But then eventually got to that, and I was always a writer throughout this whole process, and then now, as of late into my career, and now finally putting on the director hat.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey.
And it's not it's almost ridiculous to say it's not easy. Because we like we know it's not easy by
Yeah,
far.
no, no,
But it's a lot harder going in and starting in that space and going
yes,
into like the directing and finding out about production and really trying to like plant your feet in that space.
yep,
Because it's great once you're in the door.
hmm,
But it's not a super welcoming environment. It's not being opened up to everyone.
it's not. I would say it's not welcoming at all.
I didn't want to say that completely
Yeah,
because,
I'm keeping
but
it real.
I
No,
I
but you're
know that
right.
it's yeah. There's a very small minority,
Yeah,
and sometimes as a we look at it in a racial situation in a lot of
yeah,
circumstances,
yeah,
but
yes,
it's a country club, and if you're in the
yes, it
country
is.
club, you have access. If you're not in the country club, you don't have that access. How do you
You nailed it,
maneuver into that space?
brother. It's funny because when you mention that, the first thing that comes to mind is I remember starting up my career early on, right? And I come from a mixed heritage, half black, half white, right? But
Hmm.
the majority of my work, has been in what we would call, or the running joke, Black Hollywood. And the funny thing about that
Hmm.
statement is you can go drive all up and down Sunset. If you're looking for Black Hollywood, you're not going to find it. It's not like it's a spot,
Right.
right? It's a community.
Right.
So for me, I was blessed, I'll say in this regards, to be able to surround myself early on in my career with a strong
Yeah.
circle, right?
Yeah.
You cannot you cannot put a price tag on that. And when
Hmm.
you're first breaking into, that business, I first tried, to dive into the country club.
Yeah.
Very was very quickly shown to the door, and that's how it is, and it's jarring,
Yeah.
but the thing is, everyone has these expectations, moving into that scene, thinking certain things are going to go, the way you think they're going to go, and they're absolutely not. So then that's when you need to fall back on your strength. Your strength is your circle, right? And you always, I knew what I wanted to do, right? So then I was like, all right, well then I need to surround myself with like-minded individuals that are either already doing it or are pressing hard to do it, so that I know that
Yeah.
I'm going to be learning at all times, or I'm going to be empowered, right?
Right.
And then
Right.
it's the waiting game, it's the patient game. Nothing happens overnight, and you've got I would say the one thing that's defined me in this career thus far is not my wins, it's how I
Yeah.
took the losses,
Yeah.
and just keep going on, because it really is it's a marathon, and opportunities come here and there, but you got to fight that marathon, you got to win that game.
Yeah. And LA has
Mm.
a lot of disappointments.
Yes, it does.
So it's definitely survival of the fittest.
Yep.
Um, again, like you said, your network is everything. And I didn't understand that until I moved out there. And
Yep.
it's like you have to go to the parties, you have to go
You have
to
to.
other people's productions, you have to
Yes.
go to like you have to be seen. Even if they don't know you, if they've seen you enough, it's like, who is that?
Yeah. You're
That
absolutely correct.
in the door. And people don't
Yeah.
understand you can just go out there, show up at an audition and
No.
the new Gabby Sidibe. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't
It
necessarily.
does not work like that. I like, as an example, for an actor, I'd given advice years ago to this, and this one actor was getting disappointed, right? Because, they were attacking, as many auditions, casting directors, but the same ones over and over again. And I said, listen, I said, you're not going to win all the time. Matter of fact, you're
Mhm.
going to lose more than you're going to win, but you will win eventually. I said, but the thing is, you got to show face. I said, and one day they're going to see, they're going to remember you, and then an opportunity is going to happen. And that's the marathon. And that's short. That's exactly what happened. I mean, you're talking like 20 no's, and then one day you get that yes, and
Yeah.
it's because they remember you, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like rite of passage. Who's serious about this game? Who's really in it
Right.
for the long haul? So
And look, and 20 is a low number.
yeah, I was being nice. Okay, I don't want to deter anyone aspiring artist, to be
But
like, geez.
it's hilarious because when I was living in New York, we went to they had a reunion cast panel for the Roots, or for Roots. I keep calling it the Roots, for Alex Haley's
Hmm.
Roots.
Yeah.
So they had the cast panel up there, and someone asked LeVar Burton, like, I keep getting no's, I don't know what to do, I feel like, this isn't for me. And he was like, it's not for you. And like everybody was just like, ooh. And he was like, no, he's like, that's honest. He's like, if you're getting no's and you're ready to quit, this isn't the business for you. Like,
No,
you
it's
can get
not.
no's for a year and a half
That's
straight,
correct.
and you
That is
have to
correct.
show up to the next audition like you never even had the last one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's just it's that industry. It's Don told me this. He was like, it can be the fact that you're an inch and a half taller than the person that is already cast. You can
Hmm.
be a complexion and a half darker than that person. Your voice
Hmm.
could be different. Your
Yep.
chemistry may not work. They may not like
Yep.
your agent. They might
Yep.
not like your manager. Like, it can
Yep.
be anything. He said, but what you do is get in front of the casting director. You do your absolute best. They'll remember you to a point to where they'll call looking for you
Yes, they will.
if you do your job correctly. But
That is
you
correct.
have to keep showing up.
You
You
have to,
can't
you
give
have to
up.
be consistency,
Yeah.
and there's no rhyme or reason to it as to when those moments come that you'll win. It's just they're destined to come. And if you're doubting yourself, it's not the same as failing yourself, right? It's
Yeah.
okay. It's human. It's the human nature to doubt, but that
Yeah.
doesn't, as long as that doesn't deter you from getting up, shaking that etch a sketch, and just like, what was that movie, Groundhog Day,
Hmm.
with Bill Murray, do it all over again. And you've got to do that, and then eventually, like I said, you'll have no choice but to get better at your craft, and then simultaneously you will get noticed, you will be remembered, and you will have the opportunity. I tell everyone, people think it's cliche, but I believe it, and I stand by it.
Yeah.
Everyone will get their moment if you prepare, and if you
Yeah.
stay in that game, you will have your moment. The question is, will you be ready for it?
Will you be ready for it? And
Yep.
that's where the mistakes come in.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of people that are not prepared. and
Yeah.
you put in the work for 2 years, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna chill out this year, and that's when you get called back, and
And you're not
you're
ready.
not sharp anymore.
That's it.
So
That's it.
so when you decide you're gonna elevate, and it's like, I'm really going to take this seriously, how did you start to transition into the role of being behind the scenes? Like, what did you have to learn? What was that mistake that you made that one time that you're like, I can never do that again?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me was, well, first off, was a mindset, right? Because as I
Hmm.
started transitioning into that role, and I wasn't really fully there yet, the opportunity was there. It was
Hmm.
responsibility, right? So
Yeah.
I learned real quick that not taking responsibility for a mistake, right, is
Yeah.
is like the worst thing you can do, because then you lose all accountability, right? So then how
Yeah.
can they trust you? Because when the stakes are on the line, you have production, that's money, that is time, that's effort. And a little mistake, what, or a large one, if you don't take ownership of that, then no one's going to trust you to do the big things. And I made that mistake.
Right.
Like I made a mistake early on, and I was supposed to do something, I didn't do it, and I was embarrassed. Right, I was embarrassed,
Yeah.
and I just was like, "Oh, I didn't know." I made all the excuses instead of just saying boom, and I got chastised. Luckily, my circle was strong enough to call me on the carpet and like, "Chris, that's BS," and they're like, "You can't do that. That's not how it works. You're lucky that you made that mistake with us and you didn't own up, because if you were in that country club and you
Yeah.
made that mistake, okay, guess what? They would have been a wrap." So, and I learned from that. And I was like, it changed me from a responsible standpoint to realize, okay, I'm going to dot I's, cross T's. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to own it immediately. And then I will never make that mistake again, period.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
me, when I started doing that, and I was a young man at the time, that's when I started gaining, I guess, the respect of those around me to like, okay, I trust him. Let's
Yeah.
pass him the rock and see what he does with it.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Yeah.
Um, taking accountability. I think it's maybe a little bit harder for us as Black men. Like, we can say
Yeah.
my bad for something, but if
Right.
it's like embarrassing, like you
Yeah.
really made something mess up, it's
Ego.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ego gets in there. It's like, I'll try to fix it first before I acknowledge that I messed something up, and your fixing
Exactly.
it probably makes it
That's
worse.
you all the time.
It's
Yep,
like,
that's exactly what happened too.
it's
Yeah.
like, but I did this, and this. I'm like, yo, you can't even step that far. You have to complete
No,
step 2 before you go to step 4. Like, you
exactly.
messed up the order.
No.
But
Yep.
it's such a big, it's such a big part of success, and
Yep.
it's such a small thing to have to do, and it's
Absolutely.
that small thing that we avoid, but it
Hmm.
takes you so much further.
Yeah.
um i like to I like to think that when I acknowledge my mistakes, I've grown some, because I'm taking accountability for it and saying, you know what,
Hmm.
that's on me. Like, I
That's right.
I messed that up. And
Yep.
I think that's where, again, where you're in your role, that's where the leadership comes in at. It's like, I messed
Yep.
up. This is how we're going to try to fix this, but I'm letting you know that I know that I messed up.
Hmm.
Even though you may already know that I know that you know
But
that I messed
acknowledging
up,
it.
but
Yep.
I'm telling you that I know that I did it.
Yeah.
Huge difference.
It's an attractive quality as a human
Yeah.
being, and it's an even better quality as a man and as a
Yeah.
business professional. Because again, you can't stress enough. Trust is everything, especially in this business. And
Yeah.
you got to be able to trust the person to your right and your left, especially when money's on the line. People's
Yeah.
careers on the line. You got to trust. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge.
As my mom say, you're not gonna play in my face. So it's you're not gonna play
No,
in my face.
no, no, no. Put some respect on my name and stand on business, because
Right.
we're not going to do
I
that.
think
No.
it's like, I think that's where you learn that lesson. Like, really?
Yeah,
That's what you're gonna go with.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not gonna play in my face. Just walk away, figure it out, come back when you're ready.
Exactly.
and,
But it's real.
and
It's
it's
real though.
it mans you up very quickly.
Yes, it does.
Um, the industry as a whole, you're we would think, or we would say, that you're in a prime real estate kind of moment where there's a lot of directive going towards Black creatives, going towards Black projects, going towards Black funding.
Yeah.
Even with that said, there's not a lot of real estate for Black creatives, Black projects, and Black funding. So it sounds like, oh, you're getting all of this, where there may be 15 productions that are coming from us in a 450 production arena.
Exactly. Right.
So because we're seeing more, we think that we're winning, but I understand that we can't give up on that push and keep pushing for more, not necessarily just content, because they're giving us a lot of content, but we're not getting quality.
Boom. There it is.
So how do you, because I know specifically, I can put a whole bunch of stuff in the magazine, but it ain't gonna mean nothing.
Exactly.
So how do you stay on that task and just like keep putting out good stuff and take the risk of the receptiveness of it? Is receptiveness a word?
That's I think so.
Okay.
Receptiveness.
We'll go with it. It's a word now.
We're gonna roll with it. I like it. No, I that's a good question, Rashod, because like that's something I actually questioned myself.
Yeah.
Years ago. From a writing standpoint first, before even putting anything out and producing it, right? When I tell you how delicate that balance is, because first off, you've got a couple things that you have to take into consideration at the same time. Number one, your audience, right?
Yeah.
So you want to a degree to cater to them so that you're giving them what they want, but you sometimes got to also flip on the other side where you're giving them what they need. And there's a difference. Right. So for me, writing quality content means playing to our culture properly, right? On what we want, what we like. We want to laugh, right? We also want to cry, right? But we want to have a balance. We want to have those qualities, right? But we don't. There's a tendency in some work, and I'm not saying anything prominent, but like that slapstick comedy or buffoonery, in my opinion, there's been a place and a time for that. But I feel like as a culture, and our audience, we've progressed to the point that we are not beyond that. We don't need to do that. Right. So for me, I try to focus more on our real stories, try to shine light, on things that sometimes are taboo. But then I'm still going to take the audience, on a roller coaster. Right. So they're going to laugh, maybe they're going to have emotions depending on what the storyline is. And then being honest and then having the responsibility of realizing that whatever I put out there, okay, whether they like it or hate it, bottom line is I'm gonna have multi-generations viewing it. So what message am I saying to the younger generations of the quality or lack thereof of the content that I'm putting out there? It's a responsibility, right? But at the same time, you want to secure the bag, right? So, you got to find a balance of making sure you're putting it out there that the audience is going to appreciate and love it. But you're raising the bar, you're raising the standard, and it doesn't have to be a foot. It could be like an inch, half an inch each time, but you're still pushing it up, right? And to the point one day where we're not like fighting over, a baby slice of the pie, where we command and demand a larger portion of that, which I do believe will happen one day. It's coming, but it's just a slow moving train.
Slow progression.
Yes, it is.
And it's interesting because I have a love-hate relationship with reality television.
Oh man.
It's more on the hate side because I just feel like the way it depicts us as a community irritates me.
Yeah.
I love trying to find the humanity in the people that are on it and trying to find the good side of it. So I call it a guilty pleasure. I try not to watch as much of it because I love watching something with the plot, something with the script, something that's going to make me think when I get done. Right. But it's like one of my friends told me, he was like, the music that you listen to, I'm a Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Roots, Common. I love that era of music. He said, sometimes people just want to dance. And I was like, he's like, sometimes you just want to listen to Migos. And he's like, you don't know what they're saying. It doesn't matter. You just want to sit in the club and bop and dance and have a hookah and a drink and have
It's
fun.
true.
And it's that balance. It's like you're saying,
Yeah.
it's make you laugh, make you cry, give you something to take away, give you something that's going to make
Hmm.
you think when you leave. But
Yeah.
people love going to church and not being preached at,
Right.
which is it's a crazy concept.
That's a good analogy.
You,
Yeah.
you know what you're going there for, but you don't want it directed at you.
Right. Like
So
chill.
like, whoa, bro,
Right. Right.
like
Yeah.
I don't care. Sing the songs, pass the plate. Like I did my due. Let's go home.
I did my, let's be, yeah. Listen,
And
you hit the nail on the head.
yeah, it's like we teeter that line often. But what
To,
I
I was just going to say about the reality TV. I'm with you.
yeah.
It's a guilty pleasure. I try not to overindulge, because then I feel like I'm
Yeah.
also contributing to the hamster wheel. For me, I mean, a lot of it's hilarious, but it's just for me vegetative watching, right? Where I'm
Yeah.
just downloading and offloading my stress, and I want to watch that because there's a part of me of looking at that drama, and I'm like, well, my
Right.
life ain't that bad, right? So,
And
but
that's the overall
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
The shit I got going
escapism,
on is not that.
right?
Like,
Yeah, but I worry
wow.
about it again because again I go back to audience. That younger generation idolizes so much of this reality TV that now it's starting to shape culture, and for me, that's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah. And I've said this to people that I've interviewed that do reality TV. It's not necessarily that what they're doing is the problem. It's the fact
Right.
that you have people that are watching it that are trying to find out which one of my friends is this person. Which one
Right.
of these people am I most like? And then it's
Right.
like now someone tells you, oh, you're just like her or you're just like
Hmm.
him. And then you start portraying their
Yeah.
personality traits from TV. And
Correct.
suddenly it became cool to throw drinks on people.
Right.
That
You
was
see what I'm
never
saying?
cool before.
It was never
So
cool. It was never
it
okay.
you never did that. You never got into loud arguments to try to embarrass someone in restaurants.
Hmm.
Like there was a decorum that we had, and it's like we're not going to disrespect ourselves to
Never.
try to disrespect you.
Yeah.
Like that was
Now
never a
it's
thing, and
sensationalized. Yeah, it's
now it's
sensationalized
just
now.
like it happens. It drives me nuts.
It's terrible,
Um,
man. I hope we turn it around, but I'll try to
yeah,
minimize my viewership, you know, as much as I can.
it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard.
Because you get sucked in. It's like, oh, season 8's coming on Thursday. Watch party. So everybody's there.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's a true
but
story.
I think the great part of being in the spaces that we're in is that we get to give those opportunities to other people.
Yeah.
We get to say, this is how far I've gotten. I'm going to reach back and pull some of you with me if you're
Hmm.
serious. Because what we also
Exactly.
learn is that I don't have time to waste.
Correct.
Like I can't waste time. I can't go backwards to do this. Like you have to jump up and catch up with where I'm at and
Yep.
try to surpass me. Um,
Exactly.
what does that feel like for you? I guess at this point, knowing how far you've come in your career and then being able to say, I can now put on this group of people.
Man, to be honest, it's one of the most rewarding things at this point in my career, right? Because I know I still got highways ahead,
Yeah.
but it feels so good. And the reason why it feels so good is I've always been one of my mantras has always been karma, right?
Hmm.
And you get back, in my opinion, from the universe what you put out.
Yeah.
So to have opportunities to provide opportunities, right, for others and to be able to lift, it's rewarding. And you're building, also not only new relationships, you're setting the standard for what they're going to do as a community
Hmm.
because we're all we got, right?
Yeah.
So if we can't band together, then like separate we're not going to be able to win this game. And that's why I always say Black Hollywood, like where is it, like what corner is it located at? No, it's a community, it's a thought process. It's, you mentioned earlier about supporting other individuals work and showing up for their work, because if they
Yeah.
show up for you, you need to show up for them, and it's support. So it just feels good. It feels so good Rashad, at this point, to even be in a position to do that. It also, not that it feeds the ego, but it also makes me, to a degree, to be like, Chris, you're doing all right. Okay. You've
Yeah.
made some progress to be able to help others and lift. So every chance I get, I do it, and I
Yeah.
never forget where I started.
Yeah. And I started doing something maybe like 2 years ago. Like when I have a good day, I tell myself I had a good day. Like
Right.
you had a great day. Like
Great day. Positive
you got some things
affirmation.
done.
Yeah.
Because if not, it goes from day to day to day.
Hmm.
And you may feel like you accomplished something or you did something good for somebody or
Yep.
you know, you don't get that self-reward.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to acknowledge that you're not completely a effed up person. Like you did some good in the world today.
Right.
And it may not come from everyone, but you have to
Right.
just give that to yourself.
Yeah,
Um
absolutely. You're supposed to be your own best cheerleader, right? No one knows you like you
yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
if you can't love yourself, first and foremost, you're not going to get far in life. Can't depend on others' validation of who you are. So that's an awesome thing. Positive
Yeah.
affirmations, man. You go like, you killed today.
You killed it today.
You killed it today. That's good.
But what I learned with, reaching back and bringing people with you is that
Hmm.
you also have to protect your space.
True.
And I worked hard to get from one end zone to the 30-yard line.
Hmm.
Like I can't let you take me back to
No,
the 10.
no.
So and I tell people a no is never personal.
Hmm.
It's just the timing's not right. And it
Correct.
goes hand in hand with like even like with casting. Yes, you may be great at, graphic design, but not
Hmm.
right now. Like the
Not right
time
now.
right now isn't right. It's I would assume for you when you get to the position that you get into, like in production and directing and
Hmm.
getting projects out, you have to give a lot of no's.
Yes, you do.
And
Now you get to control how you give the no, though. But absolutely,
right.
yes. Yeah.
And again, coming from the front of the camera going to the back of the camera. Now, so I was going to
Yeah.
ask you, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you how do you give those no's without being a
Yeah.
dream killer?
I
That's
got
hard.
you. It is hard. And first off, a lot of other individuals, unfortunately, that are in that position of power don't necessarily uh, give as much energy to that topic. And for me, coming from the other side, and I know what that rejection feels like. So I try to predicate the negative with a positive immediately.
Yeah.
It's never for me, like just a flat no. It's like, so this isn't, this not this time, but there may be another opportunity down the line, and then if I feel the need in the moment to explain the no even more, then I'll even do that.
Yeah.
But I I guess I've developed, how do I explain this? I've developed a higher level of empathy while I
Yeah.
simultaneously develop thicker skin. So it's almost like my defense is thicker now, but my offense has gotten softer.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a good way to be because I remember Don, business partner now going on. I say this out loud. I realize we getting old, but Don and I have been business partners now going on 25 years. That's
Wow.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but I remember early on, he used to say these things like, and, just talking about, be careful who you choose to step over on your way up that ladder. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, that may be someone you need to look eye to eye as you're sliding right down the ladder. And because, that's how Hollywood is, it shoots and ladders, that game. And you never know. So if you're
Yeah.
giving someone a no because you're in a position of power, give that person the self-respect, and the empathy, to think about their feelings to a degree. And
Yeah.
because you never know, that person may be giving you a no one day. And
Yeah.
that's how it is in
Yeah.
divine timing.
That's real
I like
life.
you said timing, and that's another big thing. We were just having discussing a major meeting, with the studio exec, and it was funny because I remember there was a meeting like years ago. It had been like maybe 15, 16 years ago.
Hmm.
And pitching projects, doing what needs to be done to try to, move this thing forward. And back then, just for whatever reason, just divine timing, nothing had materialized.
Right.
And but then fast forward, then maybe something materializes now, because the statement is, it's like timing is everything sometimes. So you just got to be patient. So I
Yeah.
no, I've got high respect for anyone, whether it's a graphic artist, whether it's an actor, whether it's support staff, anything, because everyone's on the come up,
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with that hustle. There's nothing wrong with that hustle. Respect the
Yeah.
hustle. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. When you say pitching projects,
Mhm.
um, every script's not a good script. Every project's not a good project.
True.
Who do you go to and say, I think this might be this?
Yeah.
I need your serious, honest, like, opinion on this. Like, I need real feedback because I don't want to do this and look dumb.
Yep. So that's when you need to trust your circle. Now, for me, I like to have, I'll say, a narrow audience when I'm first developing a storyline, right? Because
Hmm.
you don't want to be, yeah, you want to be true to yourself as a writer, right? So you
Hmm.
don't want to be manipulated until you actually get the story out, right?
Right.
But then I'll lean on the people I trust. So Donald Welch, business partner of over 25 years. We had written something together with Bill Duke. We partnered up with Bill
Hmm.
Duke. We were bouncing ideas against it. You've got to trust the people that are to your left and to your right. So for me, I go to I call them trusted advisors, right? Now, with
Hmm.
that said, if I get to the point where a script is pretty much done, I will shop it to my close friends and even family members. Hey, read this. What do you think? And they're going to keep it real. We're going to say, Chris, this is really good. I'm not feeling that. And then I get to take that criticism and make a decision. Do I want to stick to my
Right.
guns on this, or is there a validity to this? And maybe I need to rethink that. So if you don't
Right.
have a circle, it's difficult, because especially as an early writer, everyone gives birth to a script. But like you said, okay, all them babies ain't cute. So you,
Oh,
you,
babies ain't cute.
right? And if you don't, unfortunately, but to the mother, that baby's beautiful. So it's the same thing as a
Beautiful.
writer with a script. You got to be able to remain semi-neutral to a degree, and then just take the
Yeah.
harsh criticism when you need it, right? But
Yeah.
be sure you trust where you're getting that harsh criticism, because not all criticism is good criticism, and so that's a balancing act for me. But I've learned, at least over the years, to be honest with myself, and don't be you know too insecure, when you shop things
Yeah.
around.
And that's why I kind of, like, as you're talking, I'm thinking, like, you have to know the depth of the person that you're giving the things to.
Hmm.
Because if you take a drama script to a
Right.
reality TV
Yeah. No.
mega fan, like, you're probably
Right.
not going to get it.
You know your
It's like,
audience. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I watched Inside Man and I walked out and I was like, this was fucking amazing. And
Yeah.
then somebody else walked out and was like, that was stupid. It had no point to it. And I'm like, you missed the whole movie.
You
Like,
missed the whole movie. Right.
you missed all of it. So
Right.
it's understanding that, like, everyone's opinion counts, but it doesn't matter.
Boom.
And I never want to discount someone's opinion, but I'm not going to give your opinion merit just because it came from you. Like, that's,
Correct.
you can stand in that, but you kind of wrong.
Exactly.
um,
And if you don't stand on business on the things that you're producing at sometimes, then
yeah,
you're not going to be able to be steadfast. You got to believe in yourself first and foremost, but then don't be too egotistical and obtuse to
right.
not be able to at least hear something out. That doesn't mean you have to fully entertain it, but you want to be open enough that you can absorb some of that, energy every now and then.
At least hear it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So what are you working on now? Because, like, again, you're 25 or going on 25 years into your entertainment business partnership. And I like saying it's 25 years just to remind you
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's almost 25 years.
I know.
Oh.
Man, I look, it's been awesome. I mean, but we progress now. So,
Yeah.
early on, a lot of our productions, was theater based. We were doing tours, across the United States and things like that, and then migrated into, independent work, straight to DVD stuff, and now streaming, and now film. And so, right, the latest and greatest for me, I had wrote a piece at the end of 2022. I think it was like November, December, and I shot the film spring of last year. And the
Mhm.
majority of last year was in post editing, sound, getting everything right, and then gearing up. And the beginning of this year, January, we started shopping it through the International Film Festival circuit. And so that's what we've been focused on. And we're like halfway year mark now.
Yeah.
We've been blessed. I think we've won a total of, I think we're up to like 44 film festivals now, for like almost over 100 awards.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean,
Congratulations, man.
it's
That's major.
thank you, brother. I'm through the moon,
Yeah.
and just humbled on the success it's having, and having opportunities to go in other areas. I just flew back from Toronto. We had a film festival out there, and came away with 2 awards. And it's just like the love I'm getting, and the affirmation as far as that. Okay, my work, is being received well, is great. So
Right.
we're now focused on that. The official premiere is coming up. We're going to be like officially announcing that. It'll be most likely towards the end of this month in Hollywood, Burbank, actually, to be exact. And so this will be the coming out party for the film, official premiere of that. And then the goal, obviously, is sell it and move on to the next. So we're already gearing up now for 3 other projects
Mhm.
that's on the stovetop bubbling. So what's
Yeah.
going to pop off next? So we're teeing up right now. So
Yeah.
we're in a good place. Very happy.
Yeah. I think the time commitment in that is important for people to understand. Like you said, you
Oh,
started in
absolutely.
2022 and it's 2024, and you're saying we're getting ready to premiere. It's
Yeah.
not a simple process where you can just
No.
run out with, regardless of how great the commercials are, you can't just
Hmm.
run out with your iPhone and make a movie and
No.
put it in,
No.
Apple,
No.
whatever, and then now it's
And
there.
think you're going to pop off, right? No. No.
Right. There's
Yeah.
a lot to happen. There's a lot of structure that has to happen,
Hmm.
a lot of promotion that has to happen to even
Yeah.
go to 44 film festivals. Like
Yep.
there's a cost to that. Like
Yes, there is.
submission and making sure it's the
Yep.
right one, and then
Yep.
traveling to each one as they're like
Hmm.
there's so much. And people, we live in this microwave world where
Hmm.
everything's supposed to happen immediately. And if it's not
Right.
happening that fast, it's like, oh, y'all are hating
Right.
because this should be bigger than what it is.
Y'all don't know
And
me.
yeah, y'all don't know real talent.
Right.
But
No,
it's
that's
there's
amazing.
there's so much to be done. And when we were kids, and a lot of people won't get this, when we were
Hmm.
kids, the greatest gift, if you had a sister or a cousin, that they can get was an easy bake oven, right?
Yep.
And you thought that you were just going to be pumping out cookies and little pies and cakes and whatever. It cooked
Yep.
from a light bulb. So it
A
was going to
light
sit
bulb.
in there for 30 minutes to get this much of a cookie out.
That's
And
this
you
much. Yep.
so
Yeah.
it's like you had to sit there and wait and stare at this
Yes, you
thing for
did.
something to come
Yeah.
out. And I think that's
Yep.
like that's real life now. You get excited, and your
Hmm.
treat is going to be this big, and you're going to have to
Hmm.
wait for it. But you got to
Yep.
put that work in to like get this stuff done. And it's not
That's
a
correct.
everyone like the I'm not gonna say everyone. It gives me a little ex-president kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
a lot of people like to think that all you have to do is just start and it'll all fall in place.
Yeah.
And that's
No.
great, but you have to know what you're starting,
Absolutely. That's a
because if
good
not, that
point you made.
discouragement's real.
Yeah, it's real, and that ties into the statement you said before about when the actor was asking that question, to
Yeah.
the pioneer, and it was like, it's not for you. Yeah, there's this misconceived notion in this business that you can just dive into the deep end and it's going to be all good in the hood because you see it in your mind's eye and it's going to happen. It does. Unfortunately, it's not how it works. I will say this: diving in is an important step, right?
Right.
You got to get in the water, but it's also an arduous, process, and people don't put respect on the fact of how long it takes sometimes to perfect something. But that shouldn't deter individuals from at least getting their feet wet. For a
Yeah.
production of our magnitude, right? It takes preparation, right? I mean, it's 3, maybe 4 months of prep before you even go to production. You've got to prep,
Hmm.
right? Your team's got to be right. Okay, that script's got to be dissected. Your cinematographer or DP needs to be on the same wavelength. You got to assuming that you've casted it and you found the correct talent and they're prepped and ready. Locations, now this is, of course, we're talking about doing a professional film, right? Or a SAG, because I did a SAG film. Now, not for nothing, don't get it twisted. You can go grab the iPhone and go down to the basketball court, okay, and shoot something real quick, 5 minutes, and you know what? Edit it on your Mac and put it up into a festival. Make no mistake, you can do that, but you will have to pay
Right.
for the festival. But don't expect that you're going to get well received. Your reality will not meet your expectations.
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, it takes work, it takes dedication. And I'm still learning. Yeah, I mean, yeah, fine. We shot it in a week. I was in post edit, hell for like four months,
Yeah.
and my sound engineers were in Mexico. Okay, and I was on the East Coast at the time doing my editing process while my editor is in like California. And we're zooming.
Yeah.
Like there's challenges, there's work, there's countless hours I put in, countless hours on the editing. But you know what? Like I said earlier with the university, you what you put out, you get back, right? So then
Yeah.
now here comes, the blessings. They're earned, right? The stripes are earned. So I don't want to ever, discourage a young filmmaker from hopping out there and doing their thing. I mean, not for nothing. My very first film, I think, was actually 2006. At the time, before I even migrated to LA, I was entertaining the thought, the notion of going to NYU Film for masters, the master program.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to apply. They said, I had to have a piece in a film festival.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right. Now back, mind you, this is before iPhone wasn't popping back in 2006, bro. Like what it wasn't.
No.
So so I
No.
had a digital cam, you know what I mean? So I shot something. I shot something on my little cousin, right? And it was just a simple little storyline about all he wanted to do was get Gatorade. That's all he wanted was Gatorade. And it was on top of the fridge. And his grandmother wouldn't let him have it because he had a poster of Michael Jordan in his bedroom,
Hmm.
slam dunking, but it said Gatorade. So he associated, if I get that Gatorade, I'm gonna be like Michael Jordan. And all it was is he wanted to get the Gatorade. And
Yeah.
just, grandma wasn't having it. You didn't eat your dinner, you didn't do this, all that, you didn't do your. So finally he gets the Gatorade and he's so happy, he goes outside and he's like, I got my Gatorade, and he trips and all the Gatorade falls out the cup, right? And it's a wrap. So he doesn't have it at that point. But those are hard lessons. Anyway, I shot that in one day, right?
Yeah.
Now, come on. Now, I only put in one film festival. I think it was the Garden State Film Festival at the time, which I actually ended up winning one award with that. But I wasn't thinking that I was going to like come away, that someone, Spike Lee, was going to hit me up. Man, I saw what you did with that film, bro. Come holla. That wasn't going to happen. But
Yeah.
it was to get into NYU, which I was actually accepted. I ended up not going. I could afford it. I had that money.
I
But
mean, and that's the mortgage.
it was a mortgage. Couldn't do it. But
NYU is a
I'm
mortgage.
Yeah, but just, for any young filmmaker that's watching this, by all means, don't let this discourage you from going out and do it. Just respect the process and understand that your expectations are going to level off with reality. That's all I would say.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is respecting the process.
Hmm.
I mean, to go skydiving, it's like, oh, all you got to do is jump out the plane.
Yeah,
Before you got
right.
up there, they did a weight check. They made sure your harness was on right. You had to check
Bruh.
your parachute, like your helmet got to
Yeah,
be on. Put your goggles. Like there's steps before that thing that everyone else sees, where it's like all you got to
exactly.
do is jump out the plane, and it's like
Yeah,
it's not that simple. People who you're
no,
saying, oh, they're overnight success. They've been doing this for
no. A
10,
minute.
15, 20 years.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's
So
method to that
while
madness.
it's overnight to, yeah, while it's overnight to your eye, that doesn't mean that that process has been like put in place over a period of time. And again, a lot of
Absolutely.
no's before you saw that overnight success.
That
And the
reminds
no
me,
could be,
no, but I was going to say that one. You ever see that photo, that the glacier or the iceberg, and
yeah,
and it shows up just a little bit above the water. It says this is what the world sees, but the
yeah,
whole body of the iceberg is like 20 times larger underneath, and that's where the hard work was put in.
that's all the hard work,
Yeah.
all the hard work. All right. So knowing your journey, knowing your goals that you've had in the past, how you've gotten to where you're at, what do you what do you ultimately want? What do you ultimately want this career to look like? Do you want to be
Mhm.
another Spielberg? Do you want to, you know, get up to that point where like your name is at the end of everyone's credits?
I mean, I would say any filmmaker would would not disagree with that notion, right? Everyone wants to be the proof in the pudding, right? Everyone wants their name to be shined, right? And I
Right.
wouldn't say no to that, but I would say, if I'm going to be honest with myself, what would probably supersede that isn't isn't the notoriety. It would not be the recognition side of the house. It would be acknowledgement from, at that point of the career, peers. If you've got other
Yeah.
filmmakers that are tipping their hat to you, right? And it's just a salute, then
Mhm.
because these other filmmakers could also be your idols. So for me, it
Yeah.
would be my aspiration, number one, would be, as a filmmaker one day, knock on wood, to ascend to the point that I can receive acknowledgement from some of my idols, or would become a peer. Because that lets me
Yeah.
know that, if someone that you idolize or someone you look up to that has paved the pathways acknowledges your work, or even if you're lucky enough becomes a fan of your work, for me, that's a mama, I made it, right?
Yeah.
Because people get, what, every now and then people will get lucky with the work, right? So if your name's out there, that's great, all respect due, but that's different than having the respect of your peers, right?
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference. So for me, putting respect on my name, not just the fact that it's out there, but the fact that my work's been acknowledged, that would be my highest honor, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, when I did my interview with Spike Lee, um, one of the questions that was asked in the room was, with all the things you've done and you've never gotten an Oscar, how does that make
Mm,
you feel? And he was like, I don't do what I do to get an Oscar. I do what I do to make an impact. So if
mm.
I'm impacting people and people are receiving what I'm giving them, and it makes them think of the things that I want them to be able to envision and think of and contemplate over, I'm successful.
Oh
So
man,
he said the award is the politics. Like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
people are who you're working for. And it's
Mm.
just I looked at it different because I thought that everyone wants the Oscar. Now, no one's going to turn it down, but
Right,
it's
of course
like,
not.
if you're only that, what's the what's the gauge of your success? Because you could never get that. Charles Barkley never got an NBA ring. Like, it's
Never.
that it doesn't take away from how great you are, but
Hmm.
if that thing is all you're working for, like, how do you respect what doesn't get it? Malcolm
Exactly.
Malcolm X was an amazing movie that I
Are you
probably
kidding
watched
me?
2 or 3 times a year.
That's the first
And
one. When you mention Spike, the first one that always comes to mind for me. Of course, I love the Do the Right Things, like, but that one
yeah,
right there, I
the depth.
are you kidding me?
Like,
And to be honest, he deserved to win.
yeah,
But my thing is, but listen, to Spike, you want to talk? I don't even think I could even name it, even remotely, or put a dent on the list of black filmmakers that are doing what they're doing today because they stand on the shoulders of Spike Lee. I can't
Yeah.
I can't even.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Absolutely.
So even and he I don't care. The majority of the black filmmakers that are working today, when they think back before they became filmmakers, you're thinking of Spike Lee. You
Yeah.
want to talk about paving, man? Come on. So yeah, like this is he's a legend today. He's a living legend, and the
Yeah.
fact is I'm so happy to hear him have that perspective because that's obviously what I would think he would have. Because the thing is, that man has accomplished so much. You can't gauge it. You can't even
Yeah.
gauge it. That's not to say that that genius still doesn't have plenty of gas in the tank and secrets up his side. He may pull something out of here, but as far as I'm concerned, that man has already edged
Yeah.
his position, in the universe. So he's one
Yeah.
of my biggest idols. I love his work. I love his work.
Nah. Dude, he's insane. And it's like filmmaker meets Farrakhan. Like it's kind of like
Yeah.
it's like
Yes.
that's kind of what you get from him. I'm like, I'm gonna take this and punch you in the face with it and tell you I
Boom.
love you afterwards.
Hmm.
But it's because these things are sitting there, you're seeing them, but you're not acknowledging seeing them.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm gonna make sure that I make sure that you know that I know you saw it, and I'm gonna make
Exactly.
you acknowledge seeing it. And
That's
it's
right.
when it does that, it's just like, okay, this is real.
Yeah.
Talk about the things nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So I think that might be it. I think I got everything. Is there something you want to make sure we jump into that we didn't touch on? You all said.
I think I'm good, brother. I'll plug King Richard Productions. The I founded in 2022
Mhm.
was my actual production company for the film. So, and a couple other projects we have come up, but
For you founded King Richard Productions for your film?
yeah. So when Don and I produced this together, but
Okay.
we both of our production companies are sisters right now in this particular film. So I had founded my own
Got you.
production company, KingRichardProductions.com, and then so the inaugural film was the one I just popped off, Princess Love.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's hard. Like it's again the business of entertainment is
Yeah.
it's a journey that you have to learn. Like you have
Hmm.
to, and it's learning it in the most ways. And it's
Yeah.
like, look, I need you to do this, and then we'll
Hmm.
bring that together into this. But this is how you get this other recognition. This is how you walk away from a film with 6 checks. Like it is this this is how you
Yeah.
have to structure these
Yeah.
things. Like
Yes.
and that's why I say before you jump out the plane, make sure your harness works. Like
That's right.
there's things that you do and you look back and you go, had I had a production credit on this project, I would have
Hmm.
this much more notoriety. I would have
Yep.
this much more money. I would have this many more checks. Like I'd be able
Absolutely.
to qualify for this other thing. Like it's just we get excited and we just want to go,
Hmm.
and you miss opportunities and just going. It's
Yeah.
know what you're going
Finish your
to.
breakfast. Finish your breakfast. Because
Breakfast first. Don't just take the toast.
yeah, exactly, and focus on that. And so I've learned it, it's been years, but I did learn about the business end, of things and realizing the value there. And and I'm just
Yeah.
very happy, very blessed, humbled to be in a position to do what I'm doing right now and to have the production company. And I owe a lot of my success today, also to my business partner, Donald
Yeah.
Welch. You know, he, he literally allowed me over the years to learn so much, right, in my younger days.
Yeah.
So then, well into adulthood, as I'm starting to shape the type of businessman I'm going to be, filmmaker I'm going to be, writer, director, producer. Yeah, I had the opportunity to learn, and
Yeah.
I've just now starting to really get into the directorial phase of my career, which for me is the highest where I wanted to be. And, he's nudged me. He was like, it's time. We've been producing so many projects, we lost count. And I've been writing a lot. He's like, it's time. So I appreciate that. And that's why it goes back to your circle. Make sure your team is strong, and they've got your back. And so now, God's shining down with this project, and I'm very thankful. And I'm just looking forward to everything that's, coming ahead. And, and like I said, any opportunities I have to help anyone else, I reach that arm out as much as possible, but not to my detriment. Like you had mentioned, you got to know that, your circle's strong and know who you're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And then you gotta have a circle that is comfortable with making you uncomfortable in comfortable situations.
Boom. Love
Like
that.
people that have no problem pushing you past what you think is beyond important. And on day 3, I understand what you said. And it's like,
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No,
You're right.
Spot on.
You're right.
Spot on.
I was sitting in the jacuzzi. You're absolutely right. I was there chilling with a margarita and was like, Mama, I made it.
I was drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right. And they'll tell you in a heartbeat, you're not there yet. Do some more.
Right.
There's more to be
not
done.
Even
like,
a little
come
bit.
on. Like, you're just getting started. And I think it's really important to have those people around you, because that's where your real growth comes from. So
they keep you humble.
They
keep you humble. But
listen,
I'm just thankful, and and just pushing ahead. And so many other Black filmmakers, Spike Lee's, the Will Packers. I mean, there's individuals out there that are just doing it that inspires me every single day. The Tyler Perry's, please. So I'm just thankful to at least be in the water, swimming, right? And and moving further and further, up that stream. So I'm just it's a blessing. And I wanted to also say, Rashod, congratulations to you, brother, because I know you touched on it early on, but the first interview, like we went back, when SUAVV was in print. And now look at you now, all these years later, brother, and and all your successes and everything you're doing now. I just tip my hat to you. Round of applause to you, brother. Proud of you, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. It's a journey. You hold on to the bullhorns, and
that's right.
Hopefully you
hold on tight.
Hopefully you make it back out the ring.
Absolutely, right? In one piece.
Right.
Yeah, but it
gets interesting. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Heartfelt.